Hello, Aldo Figueroa here. In this video, we're going to go over how to create a bouncing ball using keyframes. So what I have right here is my Maya scene. And first things first, I'm going to go into File. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my project directory is set, or you can always go to the project window to create one. So let's go ahead and do this right now. So we're going to go here. I'm going to create a new one. We're going to call this one for my students. We're using, this is assignment one. Assignment one. And we need to select a location. We are in the Maya OS window right here. I have a folder that I'm saving my files to. I'm gonna go up right here, not assignment two. I'm gonna use this demo folder that I'm using and tell it to select. So it's gonna create a folder called assignment one. It's gonna place it in this location, the folder that you selected. It's gonna create all these different folders that we need. We're using the defaults and tell it to accept. And let's go ahead and save our file out for the first time. Let's go to File, Save Scene. And within here, it's already gonna go to our scenes folder. So we're going to go ahead and name our file. Since my students are naming their file specifically, have them use their last name, first name. Assignment one. And you could select either my ASCII or binary. And so the only difference is how the file is being saved in ASCII format, where you could potentially read it if you know how to read the Maya embedded language, MEL, or binary, which is more efficient for the computer. So I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to select binary and tell it save. So we have it saved. First things first, we need to create a floor and a ball. So we're going to go to create polygon primitives. I'm going to tear off this menu and I'm going to create a default plane. So I'm going to go into the plane option box. I'm going to tell it edit reset settings, create. I want to scale this one up using the scale tool. I'm pressing R on my keyboard. I'm going to click on the center box and drag towards the right just to make my plane larger. And in the outliner, I'm going to rename this one. So I'm going to double click right here and label it the floor. And now I'm going to create a default polygon sphere. I'm just going to go to edit reset settings just to make sure that we're at our default settings, tell it to create. And for this one, I'm going to call this not sphere one. I'm call this one the ball. I'm going to go ahead and close this window because we don't need this anymore. What I want to do now is I want to show you that if your manipulator handles are too small or too big, you can press the plus or minus key. Plus to make them bigger, minus to make them smaller. What we need to do first is I want us to select our ball. And since I'm going to go over here on the far right hand side of the channel box, if I scroll down under the inputs, polysphere 1, we could see that the radius is set to 1. That means that half of my ball is through the floor. So I'm gonna go up here for the translate Y. I'm going to change this to 1, enter. And so now it moves my object so it's sitting on the floor. But what I want to do, I want to reset these values so that the translate X, Y, and Z, this is the new 000. To do this with our ball selected, we could go under modify, we can go into the freeze transformation option box. With freeze transformation, this allows you to be able to reset the translate, rotate, scale, and visibility to its default values. So really right now we're only going to use translate. So even though these are selected, nothing's going to happen. I'm going to tell it to freeze transformation and you can see that translate Y is now set to 0. So if for reason we want to return this object back to this area, we just zero these things out. Now what we need to do, we need to do a little bit of setup. What we want to do is for our ball, we're going to create 3 groups. We're going to create a group for the rotate, for the scale, and the translate. So with the ball selected, we're going to go into edit and we're going to go into under hierarchy, we're going to select group. We don't need to go in the option box. Click and you can see that it's now called group 1. But we're going to rename this one. We're going to change it from group 1 to rotate. And with this one selected, we're going to repeat the process. You can go back into edit, but the keyboard shortcut is Control G. And so that creates another group. Let's see, I believe it might be the same on a Mac or it might be Command G. So I'm going to change this one to scale and then Command G or Control G. So I'm just expanding them, clicking on this little plus sign, and this one is going to be the translate. Translate. So what we need to do now is we're going to change some settings within our animation settings. So what we're going to do, we're going to go into the animation preferences. This is down here in the bottom right hand corner. I like to consider this little guy running around, running away from the sun. I'm going to click on it. It's going to open up your preferences within Maya. By default, it goes to the time slider preferences. Up on top, the frame rate. Right now it's set to 24 frames per second. I'm going to change it to 30 frames per second for right now, just because we're trying something different. You could always leave it to either 24, 60. The more frames, the more frames of animation you have. But yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and go to 30 frames per second. So for the playback and the animation start, these are these values down here in the timeline. So right now I have 1 to 150. I'm going to go ahead and just change this one, the playback start and both of them to be to 120. Now what I want to do as well under the playback, I want to make sure that the playback speed has your frame rate times 1, not every frame. Every frame plays your animation as fast as it can. This is more specifically used when using simulations where you want to make sure that Maya is able to calculate every frame. So we're going to use a constant frame rate of 30 frames per second. And if necessary, go into the animation tab. If you've changed your tangents previously, I want to make sure that I'm just using the default, the auto span tangents. Because I'm going to show you how you could change them. So, or this might be how you might have them by default. So I want to make sure that mine are set to default as well. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And now what we're going to do, we're going to do some blocking. What we're going to do is we are going to not necessarily focus just yet on the actual timing, more specifically for the keyframes. So I want to make sure that I'm keyframe 1. And what I want to do for my ball, I'm not going to add my keyframes to the ball. I'm going to first start off, I'm going to select the translate group, and we are going to put our movement on the ball, on the translate. We're going to keyframe this one. And then once we have that, to add the squash and stretch, we'll apply that to the scale. And then finally, to add the rotation, we'll add that to the rotate group. So what we're going to do is I want to make sure that auto keyframe toggle is turned on. If it's gray, it's off. If it's red, it's turned on. Whenever we change values, Maya will automatically add a new keyframe at a different time whenever we change those values. So we'll see that in action in a moment. The first thing what I want to do is I want my ball, if I was to demonstrate what this looks like. Now, don't worry that your translate node is located at at the bottom of the sphere. If I click on the sphere, you can see it's in the center. So we want to keep it like that for right now. What I'm going to do, just to kind of demo what this is going to look like, we're gonna have our sphere kind of gonna start right here, and I want it to kind of bounce as such. Now, this is not, it's like that's gonna be our ultimate what's going to look like. I'm going to undo that. So to start this off, at frame 1, I'm just going to go ahead and raise it up. So you could be exact if you want to, where say, for example, okay, maybe I want this to be translate y for a value of 10. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out. And maybe each bounce is going to drop. You could do that, or you could always just play by eye. So to keyframe, I want to keyframe specifically the translates because that's all I'm going to have out for the translate group. I'm going to press keyboard shortcut Shift W. At frame one, we get this little tick mark now. This tells us we have a keyframe. And if you look in the translate in the channel box over here for X, Y, and Z, these are all red. And so what we're going to do now that we have a keyframe, I'm just going to go ahead and go to frame 10. At frame 10, I want this to come back to the floor. In fact, I actually wanted to clip the floor ever so slightly. Let's see. Maybe where if I want, again, if I want to be exact, I could have this be minus zero point 0.4, enter. However, I also want it to go forward. You can see it's already dropping because we have our auto keyframe toggle turned on. However, I want it to go forward. So maybe I want, again, to be exact, I'm going to tell this to be 5. So it goes from point A to point B. Right now, it doesn't have the bounce. We're going to be adding that a little bit later. So right now, I want to go ahead and now start to have it go down. Now I need it to go up again. So maybe at frame 20, I want it to go up. The first time, the first bounce went all the way to 10, so I don't want it to be higher than 10. It's going to be less. So maybe I want this one to be around 6. If I look at my motion, now I don't want it to just jump straight up. I need this to advance. My previous one went 5 spaces. Maybe my next one is going to go only 4 spaces. So 4 plus 5 is 9. So now we get this. Now it looks like it's swooping in. We're going to change that later. So now at frame 30, I want this to drop down again. So it's my previous value was zero point 0.4, so around zero point 0.3. And I want it to go forward. I'm going to add 4 more, so that would be 13. So I have something that looks like this. And then let's see, I want it to go up again because I'm going to have another bounce. So the previous bounce was at 6. Maybe I want this even half of that, which is going to be now, see, it doesn't have to be precise. Say I want it right here. This was 4 spaces or total 8. Maybe it's going to go 3 spaces forward. So I'm just going to move this forward right here to around 16. Again, it doesn't have to be specific or precise. So here it's going to drop down again. You can see I'm just going to continue to repeat this process until I get all my bounces. So I'm going to say this one's going to be around zero point 0.2. So I get something like looks like here. So I need this to go forward a couple more spaces. So right here, you can see each bounce is getting a little bit smaller. We'll have one more bounce. So maybe it's gonna not go off the edge of the of our grid. We could always scale up our grid. So this was at 3. So now the next one maybe just goes around 1. But I also needed to go forward. So we'll say about a little bit over 20. And then it's going to just slightly clip the floor, just slightly. And it needs to go forward a couple of units. And then at the very end, I just want it to go just a little bit slightly forward as if it's going to roll. But I do want this value to be back at 0. So I'm going to enter 0, enter. So if I press play, I have this. Again, I want to make note that all these settings are being applied to the translate node, to the translate group. But if you know, I'm going to go ahead and stop this right here. Just move this a little bit forward, rewind and play. But if you notice, this movement looks more like a sine wave. It doesn't bounce. So now what I want to do, I want to change that to make it look like it bounces. But then I also want to I want to adjust my timing. I kind of have where I want the keyframes are. I'm going to change the motion, uh, and then we're going to change the spacing of our keyframes. I'm going to go and stop this, go back to frame one. With the translate group selected, we're going to go into Windows, Animation Editors, Graph Editor. Click. Within this window, what you're going to get this graph. The way that you read this graph is that along the bottom, think about X, Y. For this one, X is your timing, your frames, and Y is your value. Since we're only using the translate and we're all going really small values, you can see this one goes from 0 to 25, and we're going the positive spaces. If we look closely right here, we have translate with things that are keyframed. We have translate X, Y, and Z. However, if I click on translate X, notice that it's now only showing us the values for this. What we want, we I want to change specifically for translate Y. You can see what it's giving us. It looks like a sine wave. This is not the path that our animation takes, but this is telling us the ease in and ease out. So I want to change this. So what I wanted to do, I want to select these tangents. I want to select each one, and we're going to go to, for all these peaks, I want them to be flat. So we could go to tangents and we could tell it to be flat. And notice what it does. It's going to change these handles. And so another key shortcut, you can see this, it's already selected for that tangent. I'm going to select this tangent. I don't want these auto tangents. I want to use flat tangents. So they already look like they're flat. So that's good. Now for the valleys, for these tangents, I want to change them. I want these to be linear. So this changes how those tangents, how the motion. So instead of it having an ease in before it gets to that point, it's just going straight to that value, to that where that keyframe was at, and then it goes to the next one. So I'm going to select this one as well. And this time I'm going to use this icon. It's a shortcut for linear tangents. And I'm going to do this for all of these peaks and this one as well, linear tangents. And this one, it's already straight, so, but linear. Now, if I'm going to minimize this window, if I go ahead and press rewind and play, you could see that our ball, our bounce, looks like it's actually bouncing now. So that looks a lot better. However, if you notice our keyframes, we still have between each keyframe about 10 frames. So we have this one, but this one has 20 frames uh, when it goes from the floor to the height back to contact. So another 20 frames, another 20 frames. Each bounce should be a little bit shorter. And this one should take a last time as well. So we're going to change our keyframes, starting with not frame 10, the keyframe at 10, at 20. So going back to our graph editor, let's see, I had it minimized. Let me go ahead and just bring it back under Windows, Animation Editors, Graph Editor. Click. Oh, and you know what, class? What we could also do under Translate, we could also tell these to be linear as well. You can see I have a little drop right here. So I'll just have these all be linear. And so if, you could also select them, just tell them to be linear and there. Let's bring back the Translate X and Y. Because what I want to do, I want to move my keyframes within the graph editor. To do this, I want to select all of these keys right here. I'm going to use the move tool, press W on your keyboard. And then if you press and hold down shift, that's going to lock your values. Right here, this is at frame 20. Maybe I want each, for this one, I want it to be 2 frames less. So I'm going to move this one to frame 18. I'm going to keep click and hold down shift, and I'm going to drag those two values to now be at 20. I also need these to be shifted 2 frames. So this is at 28 now. This is going to be at 26. I'm going to hold down shift and click and drag this towards the left. Maybe this one is going to be, we could do, let's say 3 and then 4. Sure, we'll do that. So this will be 3 frames less. So this will be at frame 33. I'm going to hold down shift. I'm going to, let's see, I deselected it by accident. There it is. I'm going to hold down shift so I can move all of these across. So this one I need to reduce it 3 frames. So at frame 40, hold down shift, click and drag. So this one I set 4 frames. So this will be at frame 46. Effectively, I'm repeating this process, holding down shift. I am now effectively making each bounce go over less time. So this will be at frame 52. And here I don't want 10 frames right here. So I guess this would be 5. So this would be 57. At frame 57, I'm going to move this across. There we go. Let's close this window, rewind, and see our motion now. Nice. Here, I'm going to stop this. Notice that though, for my animation, it ends at frame 55. If I want to limit this, if I change this one right here to now end at frame 60, I now am seeing only 60 frames here. Uh, Make adjustments for yours. I had too many frames. You might need more frames. That's okay. That way, when I press play, when it goes back, I don't have to wait for it to go through all those extra frames. I'm going to go ahead and stop this, rewind, save it, either Command or Control S. I'm on a PC, Control S for me, Command S on Mac. So now that we have the translates, we could now adjust the squash and stretch. So what I want to do for the squash and stretch, starting off at frame 10 for every, oh, you know what? We'll go from the height to touchdown back to the height. That will be like one whole um, cycle. So right here, this time we're gonna use the scale tool. What we need to do for the scale before we start to make any changes, uh, we're gonna use a scale group. And what I want you to do is we are going to make sure that our manipulator handle is at the center of our object. So with the scale selected at frame 1, we're going to go to modify and we're going to tell it to center pivot. Click. This changes our manipulator handle to the center of our object, to the center of this group. And so we have this because what we want at keyframe at frame 1, let me make note of this. All of our keyframes were on translate. However, when we switch to a different object by default, we can't see the keyframes. So there is a way to add keyframes. That's by creating a character set, but I'm not going to go over that right now. We're at translate. We could see that it has a keyframe right here. However, as we scroll through, we could also see when it touches the floor and when it's at the height. But we could always switch back and forth. But if you're doing that, make sure that you are placing your keyframes for the scale on the scale now. So this time what I want to do, using the scale tool, the keyboard shortcut is R, or the tool's right here. I want to have a keyframe at frame one. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it Shift R. If we look over here in the channel box, we could see that scale X, Y, and Z is set to 1, 1, 1, and there's a keyframe. So I want a keyframe here. And what I want to do is at touchdown at frame 10, I could see that it squashes through the floor. I'm going to switch from the perspective view and I want to go into my side view because we're going to be able to see how it actually goes through the floor. And what I need to do, what I need to do right here, using my scale tool, I am now going to scale Y down until it actually looks like it's no longer clipping through the floor. So I'm not going to worry about being super exact. That is sufficient. And so what's happening is that it goes from being nicely round at frame one, and then it's going to ultimately be flat. However, uh, instead of kind of waiting for that impact at the frame before it, what I want to happen is I actually want to extend this so that it's going to look like if it's elongated. So your choice, we can make it really elongated. And so what we get is that right before it touches down at at that frame, then it collapses. Let's see. And then at the height, which is I believe frame 18, this should be back to 1. But now as I go back, I want to change this. So maybe let's see, this is at frame 10. So maybe at frame 14, we could elongate this as well. Before it was at 1.5, so we'll just go about 1.4. So we get something that looks like this. I'm going to rewind and press play. If we just focus on the first, this cycle right here, it's a perfect ball. It it starts to stretch, but then it collapses because it hits the floor, a big collapse, and then it kind of stretches out again where it becomes a nice ball at the height. And so we're going to repeat that process. So here at frame 26, again, I'm just eyeballing it where I want it to look like it's squashing down. But one frame before it, now I don't want to have this one be as bigger than what I had at frame 9. So again, I'm just eyeballing it. So we get this, boing, at the height, which is frame 33. I'm going to change this back to 1. And let's see, 26 to, let's see, maybe I'll just go 1, 2, 3 frames right here. I'm going to stretch this out at frame 40. I'm going to repeat this process. I'm going to scale Y down. Now, you might be asking, now, what about for the scale for X or Z? For this demo, I'm not going to do that, but if you want to do that for yourself for extra credit, or sorry, not extra credit for yourself, like pat on the back, it's like you more than welcome are able to do that. So right now, I'm just from a 2D view, just changing those values. So here, it's a perfect circle. It hits the floor. Let's see, where's the height? At frame 46. Oh, not 3. 1, enter. Here, I'll go frame 42. Just make this slightly larger than one, because I believe this is my last bounce. Yeah, I want to make sure that this two, I'm gonna zoom in a bit, that this two, here we go. We'll say around there. And at our last frame, I want to make sure that this value is set to 1. Oh, I believe it stops at frame 58. Let me go over and translate just to make sure. Oh, it's at frame 57. So I want the scale for Y to be 1 here. Uh, right here, I have this extra keyframe. If you have a keyframe or if you want to remove a keyframe, unwanted keyframe, you go to that keyframe, you right mouse click on your timeline and select delete. It removes that keyframe. So now if I look at this, I'm going to rewind. We'll go right here and press play. What I'm not going to worry about right now is that it's just kind of scaling up and down. I want it to kind of point towards it. The next step, we're going to actually add the rotate. And once we add that rotate, it actually makes it seem like it's has that squash and stretch. But this is more than sufficient for us learning how to add these keyframes. But this is looking really good. I'm gonna go ahead and stop this. I'm gonna rewind. I'm gonna press Command Control S to save. Now what we need to do, now that we have this, is we need to go ahead and go to the rotate. With the rotate group, we want to go ahead and set in the pivot again. We're going to go into modify center pivot. So it moves our manipulator handle at the center of our object. And what I want to do is at frame 1, we're going to go ahead and add a keyframe for the rotates. I'm going to press R. This gives me my rotate tool. I'm going to press Shift. Sorry, E is a rotate tool. I'm going to press Shift E, and this adds a keyframe for the rotate X, Y, and Z. So at frame 1, it's like I want my object to rotate this way. So that is on my computer and my scene, its rotate Z is going the minus value. So I want to go ahead and now just go to the very end at frame 57. And I want to change rotate Z to be, say, what if we do minus 480, enter. If I rewind and press play, we have this. What I don't like is that it looks like it kind of slides. I want it to continue to roll. So you know what? Let's increase this. Change this to minus 1000. Rewind, press play. Now, right now, we can actually see the because I have my object selected, we could actually see the rotations. But if we deselect it, we can't see those values. We can't see it rotate. So what we could do for fun, select your ball. If we scroll down within the channel box under Polysphere 1, if I reduce the subdivision axis and height, right now it's set to 20. I'm going to do maybe 10 for each one. I'm going to make my sphere have less detail so that when I press play, we can actually see it move. So if you want to add or reduce it even more, what if I go 8 and 8? Go 8, tab 8, return. So it has less values or less sides. So we can actually see when it's rotating. I'm going to press Command S, Control S, and class, there you go. Hopefully you were able to follow with this demo with creating a bouncing ball. Here, I'm going to go ahead and now look at my perspective view. I'm going to go to a different angle so we could see some of the shaded mode. And it kind of stopped right before it falls off the edge. Here, for fun, we could always go right here. It ends at frame 57. Select my floor, use my scale tool, and I could kind of just scale it in just a bit. So it looks like it's gonna fall off, but right at the last moment, it hits the brakes. It's like, "Eh." All right. I hope that you were able to follow along. However, if you have any questions, you could always put them in the comments. You could always reach me. Otherwise, best of luck. I hope that you were able to learn how to use keyframes, how we're able to use these different groups, how we're able to use the auto keyframe toggle and get a better idea of working with the graph editor, adjusting our motion. And so I hope that you're able to have your bouncing ball. Congratulations. And until the next time, be well, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.